Hello, my name is Michael, and this video is part 2 of the MeanStack RESTful API tutorial. In the first video, we laid the foundations for our contact list app. In this second video, we're going to practice putting data into our app with AngularJS and Node.js. Then, in the next video, we'll learn how to pull in data from MongoDB, an actual database. So, let's get started now. Step number 21. We're going to now create dummy data to populate and test our table. We'll replace this data later with data from MongoDB, but for now, let's just try putting in some dummy data. To do this, in our controller.js file, let's create a few objects with properties name, email, and number. So let's type this. Let's have person1 equals squiggly bracket. Put the semicolon at the end there. We're going to have his name be Tim. His email will be tim@email.com. His number will be in quotation marks 111 111 1111. I'm going to create person number 2. Person number 2 will be named Emily. Her email will be emily@email2.com. Her number will be 222 222 2222. And then we're going to create a person number 3. Person 3 will have the name John. Email will be john@email3.com. His number will be 333 333 3333. Okay, so now that's going to be our 3 contacts. Now, the next thing we're going to do is create an array with these objects with the variable contact list by typing var contact list. To make an array, we use square brackets like that. So it's going to be person1, comma person2, comma person3, 3. And so now we've created our dummy data. Step number 22, we're going to put our dummy data into our table now. To put data from our controller.js file into our index.html file, we're going to use something called scope or $scope, which according to the AngularJS website is the glue between application controller and the view. The view in our case is our index.html file. So now let's first include scope or $scope as an argument in our app control function like that. And then underneath our dummy data, let's type this. It's going to be $scope.contactList equals contact list. The $scope.contactList allows us to now use the variable contact list in our view or our index.html file. So now let's go to our index.html file and type the following right underneath the t-head section. So we're going to create a new t-body section right underneath here. So let's do t-body, and then we're going to create a tr, and this tr is going to have an ng-repeat here, and I'll explain this after I type this. So contact in contact list. Now I'll explain this in a little while too. Then we're going to create 3 TDs, one with contact.name in double brackets. Next one will be contact.email in double brackets. And the third one will be contact.number in double brackets. So here's what we just did. The ng-repeat is an Angular feature that will copy our 3 objects into 3 separate rows, which saves us from writing a lot of code. The contact in contact list allows us to separate each of our contacts in our contact list variable. We could use any word. We could use, person. We're just using contact here, as long as they're the same here. And the contact.name, contact.email, and contact.number in the double brackets will be filled with the data from each of our contacts from the contact list variable. So now, if we refresh our browser, making sure that our server is still running, we will now see our dummy data nicely formatted in our contact list app table. And plus, it's nicely formatted by Bootstrap, as you can see with these lines here. So that's great. Step number 23, transition to getting our dummy data from the server instead. This is still an intermediate step before fully transitioning to MongoDB. But now let's use a GET request to retrieve our dummy data from the server instead of from the controller. To do this, we're going to use $HTTP GET from the controller side, which will send a request to the server in the app, and we're going to use app.get from the server side, which will respond by sending back the data that we want. So first, let's go to our controller.js file, and we're going to add $HTTP right after the scope at the top as an argument for our app control function. And then, so $HTTP. And then we're going to type this above our dummy data. So we're going to type $HTTP.get, parentheses, quotation mark, / contact list, quotation mark, parentheses. The / contact list is the route that we're going to create to get our data from. We'll come back to our controller in a bit, but now let's go to our server file and type this underneath the app.use part. Let's type app.get, this same route, so the contact / contact list right here, quotation mark, comma. We're going to type function req for request, res for response, and then brackets there. And inside this function, we're going to type console.log I received a GET request. So basically, this tells the server to listen for the GET request for our created contact list route, and when it receives the request, it's going to print I received a GET request to the console in the command prompt. So now let's test to make sure that we're receiving the GET request by restarting our server and then refreshing our browser. So let's do that. So Control-C, and then node server, and then now let's refresh our browser. And now in our command prompt, we should see this message, I received a GET request. So our code is working correctly right now. So now let's copy our dummy data from our controller file to our server file, including the variable line, but not including the $scope line. So let's copy this data right here, and I'm just going to cut it so it's gone. And we don't need this line anymore, so let's erase that. So we're going to go back to our server file. We're going to put this underneath the console log here, so let's just paste that there. And now in our server.js file, let's write underneath the var contact list line this code right here, and I'll explain it in a little bit. We're going to type res for response.json, which is the format that the data is in, contact list. So basically what this does is it's going to respond to the GET request by sending back the contact list data in a JSON format, which the controller can then use. So now let's go back to our controller and tell the HTTP GET what to do when it receives back this data. So let's add the following code right next to the HTTP.get line. We're going to put .success, parentheses, function, response, and then brackets right there. And so now we're going to tell it what to do. It's going to do console. We're going to first do a console log to test our code. So console.log. I got the data I requested. And we're also going to type underneath here $scope.contact list equals response, which is what we received from the data. So what this code should do now is the console log will tell us that we successfully got the data we requested, and the $scope.contact list equals response line will put the data into our HTML file or our browser. So now let's restart our server, type in node server, and then let's refresh our browser. And now we should see both messages show up. So let me pull them side by side. Here we have I received a GET request, and then here in the browser we have I got the data I requested. Okay, so now that we've practiced getting data from both our controller and from our server, it's time to now get our data from an actual database. We're going to stop here for this video, and so be sure to check out the third one to learn how to use MongoDB to get data from an actual database. Thanks for watching, and I will see you then.